Hello students, how are you? I hope each one among you are doing good and well. Welcome to Supnit's classes. This is Rahmat Latif and today we are going to learn a fresh new concept, that is sexual reproduction. Before starting sexual reproduction, let's recapitulate the previous concepts too quickly, okay? In our first video we just read lifespan, and lifespan is nothing but the period from birth to natural death of an organisms, okay? In lifespan we saw, moreover in lifespan we just saw that in lifespan what happens, actually it's not necessary that the lifespan is necessarily correlated with the sizes of organisms. It's completely not necessary. What I actually meant to say for example, we have two examples, that of crow and parrot. Lifespan of crow is 15 years and that of parrot is 140 years. Despite of having their almost same size, their lifespan varies, okay? Their lifespan varies so much. Similarly, if we will talk about mango tree and peepal tree, they are almost similar in size, but again I am saying that their lifespans vary. So we can't say that lifespans of organisms are necessarily correlated with their sizes. No, it completely varies, okay? It completely varies. It's not like if somebody is exactly of the same size of other organism, they might have the same lifespan. No, they might have same lifespan, but it's not like this is the factor, size is the factor that determines their lifespan, okay? And moreover we saw that every organism is immortal except single celled organisms, and I explained very well why single celled organisms are their natural death doesn't occur. If you haven't saw that video yet, please go and check the first lecture of this reproduction in organisms. You will get concept clarity, okay? Moving towards our next topic, which we did, was reproduction. Again I'm just teaching this all these concepts here briefly, these three concepts. If you haven't watched those videos, or if you want explanation that too in detail, please refer those videos, okay? Then we learn reproduction. It's just the capability of organism to produce new offsprings that are actually similar to themselves, okay? That are actually similar to themselves. By themselves I mean parents, okay? This simply is reproduction. And you might know that it's because of reproduction that the generations, that the species are it just ensures the continuity of species generation after generation, okay? It just ensures the continuity of species generation after generation. And after this we just saw that reproduction is of two types, okay? Reproduction is of two types. First one was asexual reproduction, another one was sexual reproduction. We did asexual reproduction, and now in this lecture we will see sexual reproduction, okay? Before starting sexual reproduction, let's recapitulate the asexual reproduction, that too quickly. See what was asexual reproduction basically. In asexual reproduction, single parent was involved. In asexual reproduction, single parent was involved. It was of so many types. We saw cell division, we saw binary fission, we saw budding, we saw fragmentation, we saw multiple fission, we saw vegetative propagation. Okay, in cell division we can say that a parent cell divides into two halves, and that halves may not be equal or might be equal, it depends. Thus that reproduction was known as cell division. And in binary fission we saw that the cell divides into two halves, two equal halves. Okay, that was done by amoeba and paramecium, but under unfavorable condition you will see that amoeba undergoes multiple fission, because favorable conditions aren't there, so they form a three layered hard covering or cyst around themselves, which was known as encystation. And after encystation, when favorable conditions come back, they amoeba inside that cyst undergoes sporulation, through which amoeba, or we can say amoeba, secretes its spores, which grow into new organisms or amoebae. That process was known as sporulation. Okay, then we saw budding. Budding was done by yeast. In yeast, what happens basically, a small mass of cells, a small bud was produced on parent cell, which eventually that remains attached initially to the parent cell, but eventually that gets separate and mature into new organism or cells. Okay, then we saw fragmentation. What happens in fragmentation basically, in fragmentation you will see that pieces will happen. A parent cell will undergo 5 pieces or fragments, and each fragment has capability to grow into new organism. Multiple fission, as I said, it was done by amoeba under unfavorable conditions. Vegetative propagation in we can say in plants, we don't use asexual reproduction, we don't use the term asexual reproduction, we use term vegetative propagation. And vegetative propagation is done by vegetative propagules. Like, we have so many structures which give rise to vegetative propagation, such as runner, rhizome, sucker, tuber, offset, bulb. These are the examples of vegetative propagules which helps in vegetative propagation. I hope this concept is clear. Moreover, I am saying, if somebody hasn't saw that video yet, those videos yet, please go and check those videos, watch those videos, and then come back to this session. You will get more clarity. Okay, moving towards our today's concept, today's topic, that is sexual reproduction. Now we know asexual reproduction involves only single parent, but talking about sexual reproduction, it involves two parents. Okay, that too of opposite gender, male and female. Here male will produce its male gamete, which is basically known as sperm, and female will produce female gamete, which is actually known as ovum. Okay, these two gametes, male and female gametes, will fuse together, fusion will occur, and they will give rise to zygote, in which cell division will occur. In zygote, cell division will occur, and a multicellular, and that will give rise to a multicellular organism. Okay, we will come back to its definition. Sexual reproduction involves formation of male and female gametes. Male gamete is known as sperm, and female gamete is known as ovum. Okay, either by the same individual or by different individuals. This concept we will learn later on, how the gametes can be formed by the same individual. Okay, this concept will come later on, please don't get confused. Okay, and these gametes after fusion will give rise to zygote, as I show you here. Two parents are involved, male and female. Male will produce male gamete, which is known as sperm, and female will produce female gamete, it's known as ovum. And after their fusion, zygote will take place. Okay, formation of zygote will take place. Please remember here, asexual reproduction is very simple process. What happens basically, cell is dividing and giving rise to new offsprings. But sexual reproduction, please remember, please note here, sexual reproduction is elaborate, complex and slow process. As you might have heard about gestation period, it's just the period through which an embryo is, kept under inside the womb of the mother. Okay, gestation period. And if I will ask you what's the gestation of period of humans, it's 9 months. Okay, it might be 8 months, but average gestation period of humans is 9 months, and that of horse is, I guess, 20 months. Okay, and that of elephant is approximately 22 months. Okay, but please remember, sexual reproduction is elaborate, complex and slow process as compared to asexual reproduction. And you might have heard that we all go through the age which is known as puberty, after which our body is ready to reproduce sexually, right? So for sexual reproduction we really need to go through that age. Okay, we have three phases in our life. One is known as juvenile phase, and this phase in plants is known as vegetative phase. This is the first phase. Second phase in our bodies, in our lives, is reproductive phase. And third phase is senescence phase, old age phase. Okay, we will, sorry, it's phase, not phage. We will see all those phases briefly. Okay, first one is juvenile phase. This phase, as I already mentioned, this phase is known as vegetative phase in plants. Okay, this phase is known as vegetative phase in plants. Okay, this phase is of variable duration in different organisms. Some organisms have this phase longer, some organisms have this phase shorter. This is the phase before reproduction. Before reproductive phase we come across juvenile phase. Okay, but please remember, after vegetative phase in plants, they mark the beginning of reproductive phase. And how can we see that in higher plants? We just can simply saw that phase by flowering occurs in higher plants, and through this phase, through the end of vegetative phase, which actually marks the beginning of reproductive phase, marks that phase. Okay, that can be seen by flowering. Okay, see, I have mentioned it here also. End of juvenile or vegetative phase, which marks the beginning of reproductive phase, can be seen easily in higher plants when they come to flower. I mean, whenever their flowering occurs, whenever flowering in higher plants occur, we can saw that easily, and we can we can recognize, we can say that this is the end of juvenile phase and the beginning of reproductive phase. Okay, and you might have heard that in animals, juvenile phase is followed by morphological and physiological change prior to reproductive behavior. What I actually meant to say here is, I'll erase it and will explain what I actually meant to say. Talking about, if we will talk about human beings now, what happens in human beings basically, we all come through adolescence. In this age, in this phase of our life, what happens basically in adolescence, what happens basically, our body changes morphologically, right? Morphologically and physiologically. How morphologically change? Morphological change in men include, or boys include, beard. Their beard starts growing, their voice starts deepening, okay. Moreover, they start forming a hormone known as testosterone, okay. This is all done by testosterone, male hormone, okay. Moreover, what happens morphologically to them, they grow in width, their height increase abruptly. And talking about women's or girls, what happens in adolescence, their breast size changes. Moreover, menstrual cycle happens, okay. Menstruation occurs. Moreover, their so many changes occur inside male and female bodies. That phase is known as adolescence. And physiologically, what happened basically? Physiologically, talking about girls, menstruation occurs, okay. Functioning, menstruation occurs. And talking about boys, sperm formation occurs. I hope this is clear. And that phase is known as basically juvenile phase, when our body is preparing ourselves to reproduce, okay. To come after juvenile phase, we all come across the phase which is known as reproductive phase. And reproductive phase is the phase actually in which reproduction occurs, okay. You might have heard about menstrual phase. As I already mentioned, we are going to deal with this in detail in human reproduction chapter. I'll give you simply an idea overview. Menstrual phase occurs in which organism? It occurs in primates, okay. Please remember. And talking about, sorry, first of all we will see is estrus phase, okay. Estrus phase. Estrus phase occurs in which organisms? Estrus phase occurs in non-primates. And non-primates includes which animals? It includes rats, sheep, cows, tigers, so on and so forth. What is estrus phase and what is menstrual phase? Sorry. See, what is menstrual phase? Menstrual phase occurs in primates, and primates include monkeys, apes, and human beings, okay. These, both of these phases, what are they actually? Estrus phase and menstrual phase. These phases simply are the cyclical change which occurs inside our body, hormonal change in ovaries, and so on and so forth. We are going to discuss them in detail in human reproduction. Here you will just get the concept of estrus phase and menstrual phase, okay. These are basically cyclical changes which occur inside our body, okay, which occur inside our body, like in ovaries, like in hormonal change, okay. As I already said, estrus phase, estrus cycle, it occurs in non-primate mammals like cows, sheep, rats, deers, dogs, tiger, etc. Such cyclical chains which occur in ovaries or hormonal chains here in non-primates is known as estrus cycle. And talking about menstrual cycle, it occurs in primates like in monkeys, apes, and humans, okay. This is known as reproductive phase, when our body is fully prepared for reproduction. Then we have another phase known as senescence phase. This is also known as old age phase. What happens in this phase basically? Our body starts, our body metabolism which occurs inside our body, that becomes slow down, okay. Like we have no more energy to do this stuff, to do the household chores, or we can say that if we will talk more particularly in biology, physiologically, our metabolism is getting so much slow, is getting reduced, okay. And we can say senescence phase, end of reproductive phase. After reproductive phase, our phase came which is known as senescence phase. Okay, in senescence phase in females you will see menopause will occur. Menopause simply means stoppage of menstruation. No more menstruation happens after in this phase, senescence phase. Okay, and moreover, as I said, metabolism is reduced. It becomes very slow. Okay, metabolism becomes very slow, and that phase is known as senescence phase or old age phase, which ultimately leads to death. I hope this concept of sexual reproduction is clear. Sexual reproduction simply means, we will just recapitulate quickly. Okay, in sexual reproduction we saw that it involves the formation of male and female gamete, which together forms a zygote. Male gamete will come, female gamete will come. Once they will get together, they will form zygote. Okay, and after this I just told you that sexual reproduction, it's elaborate, simple and complex process. Okay, after this we saw that in sexual reproduction, various in everybody's life, three phases occur: juvenile phase, reproductive phase and senescent phase. In juvenile phase you will see that it's the phase before reproduction, when our body is preparing ourselves for reproduction. Juvenile phase is known as vegetative phase in plants. Okay, and after this we saw that in higher plants, how can we say that vegetative phase has reproductive phase is going to start, okay, which actually marks the end of the juvenile phase. We can just predict that by sawing the flowering. Okay, when plants came to flower, we can say that it's the end of the juvenile phase and the beginning of the reproductive phase. In reproductive phase you will see simply reproduction occurs. What happens basically, in females you will see that two cycles occur. In non-primates you will see that estrous cycle will occur, and in primates you will see menstrual cycle will occur. And I told you that these cycles just simply predict that the cyclical changes are taking place inside our body, like in ovaries, our hormone level change, or our hormones change. Okay, moreover we saw after sexual reproduction, in reproductive phase we just saw that our bodies are fully prepared in order to do the reproduction. Okay, after this we saw that we have one more phase after the reproductive phase, that is known as senescence phase. Senescence phase is also known as old age phase. In senescent phase we simply saw that what happens basically, our metabolism gets reduced, it gets slow. Moreover we saw that it's also known as old age phase. Okay, and as you all know that old age will ultimately lead to death. I hope this concept is clear. We'll meet you in another such session. Till then, goodbye, take care, thank you.